Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our webinar, Census Bureau Tools for Opportunity Zones 2.0. I'm Crystal Jimerson, a training specialist here at the U.S. Census Bureau. I want to thank you for joining us today for the From Fundamentals to Functionality, Mastering Census Bureau Data webinar series. These webinars are a great opportunity for you to learn from our experts about how to access the Census Bureau data, tools, and resources. If you wish to follow along, take a moment now to open an additional browser. You can also register for any of the webinars by visiting census.gov/academy. Before I introduce today's speaker, let's go over a few important housekeeping rules. As mentioned earlier, this webinar is being recorded. For your convenience, it will be uploaded to our Census Academy site with all supplemental materials relating to the webinar within 30 business days. We welcome written questions during the webinar. If you would like to ask a question, find and click on the Slido icon in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen. Be sure you have the Q&A tab selected. There will be a box at the bottom to type your question, After you submit your question, you may need to click on the My Questions tab to see your response, and then click on View Replies to see the responses. As a reminder, we ask that you do not include any personal or business identifiable information with your question. And for this webinar, please note that we are unable to answer your tax questions in the Q&A. The chat panel will be one-way communication, meaning we'll send you a few notes and links in the chat panel. However, for questions that you would like to send us, please use the Slido Q&A panel. My colleagues will be monitoring the Q&A panel, and as time allows, we will answer your questions directly, or we will share your question with the presenter to respond to during the webinar. If we do not get to all questions with response during the webinar, we will post the questions and responses with the webinar materials on the census.gov/academy sites. As you know, we are in a virtual environment, and sometimes technical difficulties might occur. If you are having issues, try a different browser, such as Chrome, or consider logging out and coming back into the session. If you are having audio issues, try selecting the computer audio or calling into the webinar via phone. Now, I would like to introduce our speaker, Brian Berman. Thanks again for being here today. Brian, you may begin.
Thanks, Crystal. Great to be with you guys. I'm excited. I'm really grateful to the Census Academy crew for allowing me to join in this webinar series. I hope that you'll find what I have to show you today useful and, more importantly, fun. Today's session is really for anybody working with opportunity zones. By the end of the hour, I hope we can accomplish these three objectives. We're going to be able to create a map so you can easily visualize what opportunity zones are eligible. We are going to be able to use Census Business Builder and the OnTheMap tool to help you, whether you're at the local government, state government, or you're a possible investor, begin to plan your opportunity zone investments as we're looking toward January 2027. So I know it looks like a lot, but I'm going to show you some shortcuts today. And my hope is that by the end of the hour today, that you'll be able to do all three of these objectives in just a half hour of your own time after watching today. As Crystal said, we're going to post this slide deck, which is super helpful, I hope, because I put shortcuts in here. So the reason why I think it's only going to take about a half hour with these census tools, once we have our little chat today, is these shortcuts here will help you skip some important steps. You may think toward the end that this is a bit much, that we're covering a lot of material. I don't, and that's true. But it's really because what we tried to do is combine multiple trainings that we usually do in an hour's time. We usually spend about an hour in a training session covering ACS data on data.census.gov. We spend about an hour with Census Business Builder and another hour with OnTheMap. We tried to cultivate this training so that you can learn how to use these tools just for your work with opportunity zones. So I don't expect you to have a full comprehensive understanding of these tools, particularly if you've never used them before, after today's session, I do want to invite you to use this email address right here. I'm part of the data dissemination team. There are 30 of us across the country, and we love doing data trainings. It's the best part of our job, and we are local to your state and county. So if you have questions about building your own tract map of opportunity zones, want a more in-depth discussion on Census Business Builder on the map, send an email to that census.askdata@census.gov, and they will connect you with your local census data trainer. All these trainings from the Census Bureau are of no cost to you, so take advantage. All right, so before we jump into things, I just want to highlight this first link on here. And I've got links, by the way, embedded in most of the slides to try to help you. So all the main links are on this third slide when you're browsing this a little bit later on in a couple of days. But the individual slides will also have links. So I tried to make it as easy as possible. I want to show you why I included this very fun IRS memo in here. So from here, it's a very good read, highly recommended, but all the way at the bottom, what's particularly of interest to you, I hope, is in the appendix. Right here, IRS published all the eligible opportunity zones in an Excel file like this, which is really great, and I'm very grateful to them for doing this. So if you go on this spreadsheet here, you can go in, you can go to view, just make a couple of alterations to it, right? I can freeze the top row. I can click once on the top row, go to data, add a filter. And now I can go in here and just sort out all of my eligible opportunity zones by the census tract number. This is called a GeoID. I'll talk about it in a second. So today we're going to talk a bit about King County, Washington. So I'm just going to put Washington in here. All right, this is pretty easy to do. So now I have all of King County, Washington. So this is a pretty great place to start, and I'm really grateful to IRS for putting out this spreadsheet and making it so easy to sort, putting it in an Excel file. However, you might be thinking, if you're been working on this just for a little while, it's great to have these numbers here, these tract numbers. This is called the GeoID. A quick explanation: the first 2 digits are state, the next 3 digits are county, the next 6 are tract. So the unique numbers in these GeoIDs are the last 6 when you're in the same county. You can see for King County, Washington, the first 5 are all the same here, right? So it's great to have this list, but it would be more useful, I hope, that you would be able to visualize where these tracts are. Especially if you're working not at the county level, but possibly at the city level, right? It's hard to tell. King County, if you don't know, has dozens of incorporated places. And if you're one of those cities, how are you supposed to be able to tell which of these tracts, these eligible opportunity zone tracts, are in your city? That is what we're going to do. That was part 1 of that agenda I showed you before. But before we get into the fun demo, we have to stop here and talk a little bit about how a tract becomes an opportunity zone. So if you found your way to today's webinar, I suspect you already know this and likely have been working on opportunity zones for at least a couple of months now. And if you have, please indulge me for just a minute so that I can catch up everyone else, including our very much appreciated subscribers to Census Academy. So just as a little background, Congress has designated certain, they're called low-income communities in the law, to receive special tax incentives as a means to encourage investment. So if you're unfamiliar with the timeline, state CEOs may begin nominating a prescribed percentage of the opportunity zone tracts July 1st of this year, 2026, and that Treasury will designate these tracts as opportunity zones in January 2027. So I'm sorry, they begin nominating July 1st, and then the designation from Treasury comes January 2027. Our hope is today that the tools that we're going to show you can help you if you're working on the nomination process, whether you're at state, local government, or a concerned citizen. And I also hope that if you're an investor, planning your opportunity zone investments, that you could use these tools to help you prepare looking forward to when these opportunity zones become permanent in January. As you can see from the law, there are two ways that a census tract is eligible as an opportunity zone, A and B here. If a tract does not exceed 70% of the median family income of a state or metropolitan area, that's one way. Or the second way, B, it has a poverty rate of at least 20% and does not exceed the median family income of 125%. Okay, so this has one condition, this has two conditions. Okay, if the tract is located in a metropolitan statistical area, the comparisons on part A and B are done to the data for a metropolitan area. If the tract is in a micropolitan or just not in a metropolitan area, the comparison is done to the statewide data. Okay, so it's a little confusing, but I'm guessing you're looking right now. So the first step in our process has to be, right, is my tract in a metropolitan area? I've got to know what number I'm making my comparison for. But before we get to that, I want to make sure you know where the median family income and the poverty data come from. And that, my friends, is the American Community Survey. If you're unfamiliar, and I'm sure everyone here is, but just in case, the ACS, which I'll use that acronym going forward, surveys 3.5 million addresses annually. Okay, so, and then it releases estimates at 1 in 5 year. It covers more than 40 topics, including, you guessed it, income and poverty. So that's where the data is coming from. This last part on the bottom is really, really important. I cannot overemphasize how important this is. We are only using 2024 5-year data. Okay, for metropolitan areas in states, you can get a 1-year estimate and a 5-year estimate. And in fact, as we'll see in a second, the tables default to 1 year. When we're talking about metropolitan areas and states, you've got to change it to 5 years because all the tract data is in 5-year, and we can't be comparing 1-year data to 5-year data. So always want to double check on your tables that you're using 5-year ACS data and that it's the 2024 5-year ACS data. Okay, I will emphasize that point again. Let's chat about geography. So you can get ACS data when you're just playing with ACS data on your own at all these great geographies you can see here. Today, we're going to emphasize 3 geographies. Census tracts. A tract is about 4,000 people, and you can see on this chart here where the lines connect between geographies. That shows how they nest into one another, so that census tracts nest into counties. We're also going to see places. Our example today is a place. A place is a city, essentially. This is the naming convention the Census Bureau uses for city. And then metropolitan area is entirely separate from these geographies. And you may not be as familiar with a metropolitan area. So if you, on that third slide with the links, you'll see national map of metropolitan statistical areas. Let me show you what that is. I put that in there to save you some time. We built this special. So a metropolitan statistical area, they are developed by the Office of Management and Budget, with the most recent boundaries being released in July of 2023. And the building block for a metropolitan statistical area are counties. And if you haven't used these before, I suspect they are larger than you think they are. Don't make assumptions based upon their titles. So they can be one county. For example, right here, this is the Bellingham metro area, but this is actually beautiful Whatcom County, Washington. See, right here, I've got county listed. I clicked on boundaries, and you're going to see me add a couple of these. But as I scroll out, so Whatcom County is the same. Whatcom County is the only building block of the Bellingham metropolitan statistical area. But these can also cross state lines. So if we're working at a national level, I thought a good example would be Portland, Vancouver, Hillsborough. So there, you see there are 7 counties here. This is all Portland, Vancouver, Hillsborough, MSA, or Metropolitan Statistical Area. I'll probably just use Metro going forward. So if you were looking for eligible opportunity zones and you are in Columbia County, Washington, which is up here, these three are Washington, you would make your comparison to Portland, Vancouver, Hillsborough metro area. Okay, so across the country, these vary in size and they often cross state lines. One of the largest ones, I believe, Chicago, that has 13 counties across 2 states. That's pretty exciting. Today, we're going to stay up here in the Northwest. We're going to focus on the Seattle metro, which includes Pierce, King, and Snohomish. And we're going to focus in particular, I wanted to do a city example because I thought that might be the most difficult to try to be able to tell from that Treasury spreadsheet which census tracts are in a particular city. We're going to focus on one of the cities in King County. You can see dozens of cities in King County. How are you supposed to know which tracts are in my city? We're going to focus on this lovely little city right here, Renton, Washington, which is just a bit southeast of Seattle, if you haven't had the pleasure. So our first step is we need to find the median family income, or MFI, of the Seattle metro so I can see what the comparison is, so I can figure out 70% and 125% of that. If you go on to that third slide, I found the tables for you. That's why I'm saying this should only take you about a half hour, because you're not going to have to search through the website and try to find the table that has median family income. You now know B19113. You can also just type it in this front space here. When you're doing this, make sure you put the table in first and then add the geography. I would highly recommend that. So if you follow the sequence I'm showing you now, everything's going to work great. Okay, so I've got median family income. See how it defaulted to 1 year? It's trying to trick us, but we're ready for it now. Okay, so now that I have my table, you can get this data, by the way, in like DP03, which is a different table that's more comprehensive with economic characteristics. I recommend using this table because there's only one data point on it, and it's exactly the one we need. It is what I like to call Brian-proofed. Even I can't mess this up. Okay, so now we're in filters. I've got my table. I need to add my geographies. So what we need is our metropolitan statistical area. So the first thing we did, right, we went in our map, we checked to see if our county or if our city is in an MSA or if it's not. If it's not in an MSA, I want to get the state data. If it is in an MSA, I need the metropolitan statistical area. So all you need to do, once you know what it is, let's type it right here. See how it's added to the filter? Right, so I've got my table, I've got here. And then if you're working at a state level, you could go in here and you could add multiple metropolitan areas and state data to your table. You don't have to just host one at a time. So like I can put on my median family income table, I put Washington and Seattle, Tacoma, Bellevue. Let's move this over the way. So the ACS data they are estimates, right? Just 3.5 million addresses are surveyed every year. So you'll always see a margin of error. So this estimate is with 90% confidence, in case you need to know that. So you can see here why we want to be careful. Look how big the difference is, right? That we want to make we don't want to lose any possible eligible tracts. And if we use the Washington number, we would be missing an additional 23,000. However, see this, how it says 1 year right here? I just made the same mistake I told you we weren't going to do. Every time you pull up one of these tables with doing opportunity zones, the first step, we're going to click on data set, click 5 year. Super, super important, right? Because these larger geographies are going to default to a 1. So you must manually put this to a 5. Okay. So these are the numbers we're using. It says 5 year right here. It says 5 year up here. So 5 year to 5 year, always, always, always. Okay, so we have our number now, right? This is the number, this is our base number, 140, 190. I made this to help us. Okay, so I know that 70% of 140, 190 is 9. So I know every tract in Renton that has a median family income of 98, 133 is going to be eligible. So let's start with that. So again, I'm just going to follow my links. right? If I click on that B19113 on the third slide, it's going to take you right here. All you got to do is add your geography. Okay, now I need tracts. I want to make a map of census tracts. So we're going to click on census tract. Okay, it's asking for state. And it asks for state, add a state. Here's another great trick if you haven't done this before. Okay, we saw on the geography slide, right, that tracts nest into counties. But if you're unfamiliar, King County is really, really big, including Seattle, right? More than 2 million people. If you're one of the cities in King County, you likely don't want to see all the tracts. It's overwhelming. You can click this little plus sign right here if you're working at the city level, and then click on place. Plus sign, place. Now, I can take my city like this, all census tracts fully partially within Renton City. Oh, right? Awesome. Let's move this over. Okay, median family income, $2024, looking great. I'm double checking 5-year estimates. Tracts are only in 5-year estimates, but we're always checking 5-year estimates, 5-year estimates. Okay, so this is great to have. I don't know about you, but I have a hard time memorizing where tracts are, like using it in table form. I much prefer to work with tracts visually, and the best way for me is maps. And look how easy this is going to be to make a map showing the eligible opportunity zones. So we're going to focus on base map, boundaries. You know, I'm going to go back. Let's try this one more time. Load it up. Let's reload. We'll give it a second here. That's just being a little tricky. No problem though. We can use, I've got it preloaded over here. I'm going to show you, so I built it right here. I'm going to show you what I did. Sorry about the technical issue here. So the first thing I did is I went to base map and I went to detailed. So that's going to put in the streets. Okay, second thing I'm going to do, I'm going to go to boundaries and I'm going to put in place like this. So these are the labels, so you can see, hey, these are the different cities that are around. The big trick to this is going to classes. So this usually defaults to 5 classes. Over here like this, I changed this to 2. As you can see here. So what I did is that there's a button on the side here where you can alter this from 5 to 2. I took it down to 1. Let's see if I'm going to put this back so I can show you. So I set it up like 5 like this. So what you want to do, the first step to make your map is bring this back down to 1 like this. And then look at your chart here, put this number, 98, this is like the cut line, right, for opportunity zones. So we're going to put 98, 133, press enter. Voila, you can see the cut right here. So everything in yellow is an eligible opportunity zone. And all I did to make it pretty, I need my maps to be pretty, because I just went down and made this yellow and red so it's easier to see. Okay? So again, the real tricky part is going to classes, bringing this data classes down to 1. I'll even do this again. Okay, so it defaults to this, natural distribution with 5. Bring this down to 1 like this, and then put that 70% of MFI right here. Just type it in there, press enter. There you go. Okay, so I know for sure that these 8 tracts are eligible for opportunity zones. Pretty cool, right? And this, I think, at least for me, when I'm trying to, I prefer this. I do like the treasury spreadsheet, don't get me wrong, but I like being able to see, these are census, these are full name, these are full tract names you can see on here. Census tract 253.02 King County, that's a full name for a tract. This is just easier for me to work with. And even if you're not at that local government, state government, and you're an investor planning for January, having this map will make using Census Business Builder and OnTheMap much, much easier. It's much easier to just match the visual of your eligible tracts when you're putting these tracts into the other tools. So certainly worthwhile to build this. And it wasn't that hard, right? We can do that. It wasn't too bad. So we're pretty much we're pretty much done, right? We've done everything we need to do. Yeah, no, we haven't. Right? There's part B. We still need to check to see if there are any additional tracts that qualify being at least 20% and do not exceed 125%. I thought we were out, but no, we're not. Luckily, that isn't very hard. This is also linked in that third slide. It's actually the first result when you look on poverty data, when you search the different filters here. So all you have to do is add your geography, and you can see percent below poverty level is right here. So what we're going to do is add our geographies back in, which gives us another opportunity to do our special trick. Right? Cities are in this plus. Find the plus, click on place. Type Renton. There's some results. Give it a second. All tracts in Renton. Beautiful. Look at us. Okay, so we've got all our Renton tracts. We see percent below poverty level. We use this maps tab to get our first visual. We don't need a visual of the poverty rate. We just need to know which are over 20%. So I could download this and put it into Excel and sort, or if you like easy things like me, I could just click on charts or click charts. And look at that. On this table, percent below poverty level, the very number we need defaults to the chart. And all we need to do is change this to descending, right? It's got to be over 20% for it to qualify. So everything under 20, these cannot be. So the only additional two that might be eligible as an opportunity zone under Part B of the law would be 260.03, 247.04. Our map. Our map is right. Oh. I lost our map. Oh, so I got it over here. Okay. So 260.03 already eligible, right? It's in yellow. Right? It's got an MFI of 77,000. So that one's fine. The other one though is 247.04. It could be eligible, right? It depends if the median family income is 125% of the metro area. So looking at our chart again, 125% of the median family income, Seattle, Tacoma, Bellevue, 175. The easy way to do this, when you already have your map built like this, you can just click on the tract and it's going to tell you 212, which is quite a bit more, right, than 175. So we know for sure that it is not eligible. However, another great use of building this map is you can verify on that Treasury spreadsheet that all of the eligible tracts that you believe should be eligible are indeed considered eligible by Treasury. I have worked with this for a few months now. I have not seen a mistake, but I always like to check, and I'm sure you do too. Why not? A lot of money at stake. There's no harm in checking. So first, let's verify. Let's use that Treasury spreadsheet and verify that our tract is eligible. To do that, we're going to use this identify button right here. It's next to your friend classes. Okay. So now we just need to click on a tract. Okay. So you see how 262 moved over here. If I click once again on it, it's your friend GeoID. I'm going to copy that. Go back to my spreadsheet. I'm going to Control F. Oh, whammies. Look at that. And so you could go in here and do what I did for all of your eligible tracts. Make sure, because it doesn't matter if I tell you or that you figure out that it's eligible. It matters if Treasury does. So I think absolutely worthwhile to double check and make sure that all of your tracts that you're considered nominating or considering investing in are indeed on the sheet. We can do it like that. So I can take this off. But let's say, I want to make sure, looking at this 247.04. Think, right, based on our math, and we're pretty good at our math, that this is not eligible, but you want to double check. Copy it. We want a whammy this time. Ah, on there. Okay. So this is confirming what we figured out manually. Okay, pretty cool, right? So hopefully, I think this is absolutely worthwhile, even if you are an investor. I'm going to show you here in just a second. But one of the other advantages of using the Census Bureau tools is, you see how when we're trying to see if there's like a cut line here, I had to do 2 classes, but I can't tell what's the relative differences between my eligible tracts. So perhaps you at a local government want to know which of the tracts has the highest or lowest median family income or poverty rate. We can make such maps like this. So I made a couple of these here. So all I did on these, so instead of doing 2 classes, I maxed out the classes at 7 so that you could see differences between this, but this is that same median family income data we've been looking at. And now I can see the relative differences in that our state friends, especially in my neck of the woods, have some really great maps and have done a lot of great work with opportunity zones. Highly recommend the work the states have done. I haven't seen many, and there may be that I haven't seen, that show relative differences between eligible tracts. So if this is a consideration, right, because you can't, Treasury isn't going to designate every single one of your eligible tracts, right? You have to choose and you have to try to optimize, which is kind of the point of what we're chatting about today. So you may want to know relative differences in median family income. You may want to know relative differences in poverty. So all I did to create this is I found my initial map here and I went into the filters, and you can actually go in here and add in individual tracts. It's not so hard, right? So if I'm adding, just show you what I did in case you want to build one of these. Back to Washington. I do think there are counties in Washington, right? Plus place. Lovely, Renton. Renton has tracts. I don't believe you. Okay, so all I did is I went in here and I typed, all right, you could select them like this, or you could just type them in this box like this and select them like that. So when I view all filters, I just went in and added my 8 eligible tracts, and I can create a custom map by taking the classes and expanding this all the way out. I can show relative differences between my eligible tracts too, which I think is really neat. Because the ACS in the survey, it has more than just income and poverty, right? 40 different topics we saw earlier. You could ask a lot of different questions about your eligible OZ tracts. I just made a few here that you might want to consider or might be interesting. Again, everyone has their own predilections and what they're interested in, but these are just some questions you can read over on your own that you might be able to answer using ACS data, building the table the same way, putting in your tracts first and adding a topic. And then I've also included this in the packet. These are all the different data areas that you can get data from the American Community Survey. This link was going to take you to the Why We Ask question page. Anyone who's worked with me in the past knows it's my favorite website in the whole world. If you want to know specifically, what about disability status? What about educational attainment? What about commuting? Can you learn from the ACS? Click on this site, go to look at the questions themselves. If there's a question, then there's ACS data available for that topic. So a great website to visit. And then there's also a lot of really great housing data. We are going to talk about this we are a couple minutes away from talking housing. So that's really the end of part 1. I want to talk now about how, let's say you're a local government, state government. You've been working really hard to try to determine what are the optimal selections for your nominations for your opportunity zones. But we want to make sure we get investments right in our opportunity zones. We want to make sure that we didn't just do all that work for no good. Or hopefully also we have a few investors here. Hey, we're planning for January 27. Are there any census tools that can help help you try to optimize where your investment might be most beneficial? One I might recommend, and one of my favorite tools, is the Census Business Builder. I put on here 3 different ways you might even use Census Business Builder. I'm going to do a short little demo here, show you exactly how fun it is. So we're on the Census Business Builder site. There are links, of course, on multiple slides with Census Business Builder. So I'm going to go on here. First step, close this box, go up here. Because we're dealing with tract data, the only data we'll be able to see is consumer spending and consumer residence right here, because we're only down at the tract level. But you can see right here, there is a ton of great economic, jobs data, business data. If you have not done a Census Business Builder training, I mean, I'm sure everyone here has. There's no way you haven't. But just in case, I highly recommend it. And maybe Chris will be so kind to drop that email on how to reach out. The trainings are free, right? It is absolutely worth spending an hour learning all the great data you can pull out of this tool. There are at least 10 different economic surveys. We have some Bureau of Labor statistic data in here as well. Really worthwhile to do a Census Business Builder training if you're thinking about investments in opportunity zones. However, let's just say for now, so I'm just going to do a little bit now, just get you excited. Let's focus on consumer spending. Okay, you can do 2 different variables at once in this tool, depending on where this bar is here, and look at all this cool consumer expenditure data, right? So there's data here, I hope, for really any type of small or large business. When we're thinking about investments, though, we could use this consumer spending data to think in terms of, let's say, disposable income, which I'll show you in a second. But I just want to show you all the great stuff that's in here. If you click on the caret over here, you can see even more categories go up. Around 30 are in here, right? From the smallest to the largest business are in here, right? Look for apparel. It's not just all apparel, but different categories as well. Your work, you want to use the opportunity zone to attract in a grocery store. You might do food consumed at home, right there, right? Lots of great options. If you're thinking just generally about disposable income, I've worked with a few users who thought that it might be useful to use this consumer expenditures per household on entertainment as a way to kind of visualize disposable income, or perhaps you would use dining out, whatever you think is best. You know better than me, but we'll use entertainment. So you can see how the primary variable goes up here. I can add in a secondary variable because I love fun. And I'm going to use under this consumer residence. So that under demographic, this is all ACS these are all ACS variables. So under demographic, you'll see age, your consumer base is in a particular age group, race and ethnicity is over here, socioeconomic, tons of great stuff, including median household income, secondary variable right there. But I'm interested in educational attainment. I'm interested in disability, health insurance. There's all this great commuting data in here too. Employment rate is tucked down here at the bottom. And there's also some great housing characteristics. We will look at those in a second. So we're looking for a city. We're still thinking about rent. We want to look at our rent tracks. We're going to stay on track, Ryan. Okay, next step. We've got our variables. First step, put in 2 variables, either consumer expenditures and an ACS variable. Second, type your city here. Let it load. Beautiful. Okay, this was gray before because when you're zoomed all the way out to America, you can't see data at the tract level. But now that I'm more zoomed in, you see how this turned blue? I have the chance to visualize at the tract level like this. Okay, so the next step, and this is a little bit more advanced if you haven't used this tool before, I'm going to create a custom region. And the reason I'm going to do that is I'm going to highlight my eligible opportunity zone tracts. So to do that, it's not hard though. I like this tool. Tons of great data, not that hard to use. Click on region view here, create region. Keep it on pointer because we need precisely the specific tracts. You can't draw a big circle, you're going to have too many. So one of the great advantages of building this map first is it's easier to visually match your tracts than it is to make a list and try to find where's 255, where's 253.2. It is much, much easier because the tracts have the same shape. And you click on them like that, and I'm actually going to do that right now. So I use two screens when I'm doing my OZ work. I might recommend it for you too. So on my second screen that you can't see, I've got that same map I just showed you, and I am just matching shapes and colors. This one, 55, this one, this one. Look how easy that was. It's much, much easier because they keep the same shape. So it's much easier to just find these. So I've got all of my 8 right here. Click on Save Edits. Okay, so now I'm going to move this out of the way. So why I hope Census Business Builder will be helpful for investments is you don't care just about the data within the tracts themselves. I'm going to make an admission here. I sometimes shop outside of my census tract. And in fact, I believe almost every week I'm purchasing food in a tract that I don't live in. And I suspect there are other people like me that are shopping and buying things in tracts that are close to them, but not necessarily in their tracts. I am not married to my resident census tract, and I suspect other people are as well. So the goal might not to be to make sure that there's a high, what we're calling here, disposable income and entertainment and recreation necessarily in the tracts, but potentially one of your investments in one of these OZs are near other tracts with higher disposable income or median household income. The secondary variable changed by the size of these orange circles. So right now we're looking at this in a normal distribution. Sometimes I go here, look at that, easier to see. So the darker the color, the darker the primary variable. So you can see, although the disposable income, this entertainment in these tracks right here, not the highest, and this is showing us whatever's displayed. So as you zoom in, this will change. But you can see it's near other tracts with higher median household incomes and higher disposable incomes, right? So you could optimize if you could get a good deal on an investment in one of these tracts here. You're going to be close to these tracts up here with higher disposable income, with higher median household incomes. Pretty cool, right? So you'll be able to visualize not just your eligible opportunity zones, but the tracts near them when we're thinking about our businesses. So this is just one way. So these are just one combination. A second one you might be interested in. I'm only going to do 2 examples of these. I'm going to go back to primary. So let's say you're opening a healthcare business, right? Healthcare, a super growing part of our economy. If I open this up, I can even do medical services. Consumer expenditures per household medical services, secondary variable. Maybe I'm interested in a demographic number like percent over 65. Click off like that. So again, I can get that same type of visual. Then if I just hover over any of the tracks, I can see, are any of my opportunity zones near other tracks with higher per household spending in whatever type of business I'm interested in opening, right? Really cool. Okay, so what I also might do, we have this report function. I love report function. Go right here. So if you want, let's say I decide I'm going to invest in Census Tract 262, but I want to get all of that great ACS data that I saw possibly on the map. It's all down here. So you can get all that great, this is a great way to get a comprehensive picture of dozens of ACS variables for just your tract by just going to, all I just clicked on whatever tract you're particularly interested in, right? I can get the demographic, socioeconomic, housing data as well. And I also can get all of that consumer spending data down to that tract level. Pretty cool. So you might also use this. And what's neat about these reports is it aggregates the numbers depending upon how many you have in your custom region. So right now, it's showing the total population of the 8 tracts and what percent of those 8 tracts together are male, which you probably wouldn't use these all combined together, but you might combine these 3. You can create combinations, custom combinations doing the same trick, going to edit region and just clicking in. If you want to know the population of these tracts together, edit region, add the tracts in, save edits, run a report. And this, now you have aggregated data. So you can see, really worthwhile, I think, a full training on Census Business Builder. But before we run out of time, and I don't want to, I want to talk about those of you that might be thinking of using the opportunity zones for multifamily housing investments. 2 tools I would use for that. One would be Census Business Builder. I'm going to show you all the great housing data that's in here. Tons of great housing ACS data. I'm not even sure which of these you'd be most interested in. Too many to pick from. Housing, right? You might be interested in renter occupied housing units and median rent. Maybe you want median year structure built. And what's really helpful, if you hover over this, so like I go to median rent, it gives you the definition. You don't even have to look it up in the definitions, right? It's rent plus utilities, which you would know, all you have to do is hover over it. It's going to tell you. How cool is that? Okay. Like this, right? So now I have a map, rented occupied housing units in median rent, and I can see the relative differences, not just in my eligible tracts, which are outlined in red, but all the neighboring tracts as well. So maybe if you're people I know use like educational attainment and income are 2 variables they want when thinking about investing in housing, you can also pull those out in here. But I think you'll have even more fun. Brian, there can't be even more fun. Yes, there can. And that is OnTheMap. I don't know if I have a favorite tool. I don't know if I'm allowed to have a favorite tool, but if I do, it's OnTheMap. This is really cool. So if we're operating under the hypothesis, and again, I could be wrong, but I suspect that there are a lot of people that do not like long commutes, and that if given the option and the availability, they would prefer to live closer to where they work. And if that's true, OnTheMap can help you get a lot of really cool data about your eligible OZs. Operating under that, hopefully, valuable assumption. We're on OnTheMap here. This is a little tricky. So if you've used this before, I'm going to show you a couple of tricks you may not have done. If this is your first go around with OnTheMap, welcome. This is a really cool tool. Okay, type your city right here. Always start on the Start tab. Be sad, okay? Pick out rented. Okay, I'm going to do a little bit more advanced stuff here, so stay with me. I'm going to go to base map now, and I'm going to add in the tracts, right? Because I want the data at the tract level. Okay, right here, you know these tracts now. We've looked at them enough, okay? So we know I'm in the right area. Next step, click on Perform Analysis. Okay, we are interested in work. Talking about opportunity zones, we want to see how many people. So our first question is, which of our eligible opportunity zones have the most jobs or are near a lot of jobs, right? Because we want to see, be able to ask questions about how far people are commuting and how many people there are. So how many jobs are there? Which of my tracts has the most jobs? It's a great place to start. So we're going to do an area comparison to start. We're going to go down to tracts here like this. Okay. And then if you want to include public sector jobs in your analysis, go to all jobs. Area comparison, pick tracts because we're dealing in tracts. Keep it on work, click go. I've got right here display of, it's color coded. If I scroll down here by number of jobs, the darker the blue, the more jobs there are in the particular tract. And we can see here 262 on the bar graph. This has the most jobs by far. I can also, if you're in a bigger city, you can change this from top 10 to top 25, like this. So if we're doing our investigation, I want to know which tracts of our opportunity zones employ the most people, have the most jobs in them. And right now, this 262 looks particularly interesting. Let's continue our investigation. So when I change geographies like I'm about to, I'm going to reload the tool. Always reload the tool when you do a new geography. So I want to do an investigation around tract 262. So I'm going to type 262 right here, go down, pick tracts. Okay, click search. And then pick the correct 262. No, got to know your county. King County, Washington. Sorry, Brooklyn, you're out. Okay, so I want to show you something. You could do just the search here, or you could go to selection, and I could do, because I don't care specifically if it's just in here, but if it's just near this tract, I would be interested as well. I have this option where I can draw a radius around a particular geography. So 262 is very big. It's not going to draw the radius from the center, but from the outside. So if you have a tract with like a large surface area here, the tracts are based on population, not size. You want to put a smaller amount in here, right? So if I put 5 miles, you wouldn't think it's that big. Click confirm. Right, it's 137 miles. Whoa, much bigger than you would think. So I would probably use decimals here. So I'm going to use 0.5 instead. So you can guess and check to see how big the area is going to be looking here. So I'm going to confirm selection at 0.5. So under 1 actually is going to make a lot of sense for most people. This is 12 miles. So I'm going to perform analysis right here. Okay, keep it on work. I'm going to do all jobs. I'm going to know inflow, outflow. Okay, this is going to show us how many people are living and working in tract 262 in the air. That's 12-mile circle type thing around this tract. And this is super interesting. What we're looking at right now, 74,000 people work in 262, our customized region here, but do not live there. 1,700 live and work there. 13,000 live in 262 and commute out. Right, so we're talking about potentials for people that might be interested in housing. That's a pretty big number. If you want more details about who these people are, go to detailed report, go to Excel. What's hidden in here? Okay, so I can go outflow characteristics. That's the outflow. I can see how much, I can see the distribution, or not outflow, we want inflow, sorry. Inflow, count 74,000. What percentage and how many of them earn over 33 a month? Right, so you get earnings also in age if you go into the Excel file here. So pretty cool. And there's one more thing I'm going to show you, and then I'm going to run out of time, turn into a pumpkin. I want to know, of these 74,000, do they live in these tracts right here? Because why are they going to move if they're already so close? I can see distance and direction as well and on the map. Come on, let's go. Distance, direction, right? First one we did area comparison, second inflow, outflow, third distance, direction. Go to work. This is probably my favorite graphic in all of our census tools. This is showing, this is a bar graph layered on a compass rose. How cool is that? So it's showing magnitude and direction all at the same time. And look what this chart is showing us here on the bottom. So for this, we're going to want to zoom out a bit, as you'll see why. So you can see it gives you a count and percent. So 12% of the folks working in our customized area are commuting more than 50 miles, 11%, 25 to 50, 38, 10 to 24. So if you're thinking how many workers are at least 10 miles away from their job in our custom area, this is 62%. Right, this is 47,000-ish. And then I can see specifically where they're coming from if I click right here. I'm interested in just the people 25 to 50. Right, it's going to show us a lot of them are coming from the Everett area. And then I can go back like this. This is not a sticky URL in OnTheMap, unlike Census Business Builder, unlike data.census.gov. Those maps, you can copy and paste those URLs and send them to your colleagues. In OnTheMap, you just go back to the front page. So if you want to use this in some of your work, I might go to print, chart, and map. Or you could also use a screenshot, download as a PDF. And it creates a lovely looking document. We're going to view that PDF. Look at this. All right, lovely document. It shows you, gives you the big compass rose with the bar graph on it right here. It gives you the total counts right here. And this data, by the way, is usually updated in November. So if you're doing this in a few months, you might be able to get 2024 data around second week of November. All right. So unfortunately, I took too long. We had too much fun. Sorry, Kim, I don't have time this afternoon to answer the questions. I did include in the package, and you can, if you have a question about the differences between, essentially rural is a treasury classification and a metropolitan area is done by OMB. So in some of the larger counties, you'll have, because the entire county is a metropolitan statistical area, it will include tracts that are both rural and non-rural. So essentially the short answer is they have, they're different. They sound the same, but they're different. And that's how they both can be possible at the same time. I've also included this. A lot of folks I've worked with are using median family income and median household income interchangeably. They are different. Okay, so most of the tools we have, narrative profiles, quick facts, they're using household income. Median family income is not really used in our tools. So we've provided the subject definitions, but I quoted them here for you. And you can see family incomes are larger because they always include at least one other person in the income, where households will often be just a single person. That's why this number is often smaller. So when you see tables, like pre-made tables on our tools, it's probably household income, which is different than family income. I want to invite you also to subscribe to Census Academy. I love Census Academy. You can subscribe, census.gov/academy. You don't want to miss any. We have some great trainings coming up later this year. Don't miss them. And this fine group of people right here, these are your data dissemination specialists. These are the ones providing those free trainings. I know the great trainings, the Census Business Builder, OnTheMap, and more. All you got to do is send an email right here or call that number. And I am now going to hand it back to Crystal. Thank you again for all your time and attention this afternoon. I appreciate you very much.
Thank you, Brian. Thank you for introducing these steps to finding the eligible opportunity zones using our data tools and our census tracts. This was really amazing to watch, so thank you. Before we conclude, I'd like to thank everyone who played a role in today's webinar. We thank you, our audience, for spending your time with us this afternoon. We are very interested in hearing from you on how we are doing. Please take a moment to fill out the evaluation that will appear when you exit the webinar. That brings us to a close. We thank you again for joining us today and hope you have a great afternoon.